Hey there, welcome. This is The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. So the Supreme Court's making a lot of news with some of their recent decisions, and one of them that has a lot of your neighbors concerned is this new death squad ruling. I'm not exaggerating.
I mean, this is a death squad ruling.
Yes, the idea that because presidents are going to maintain the same presidential immunity that every other previous president had, this is a death squad ruling. We can now have death squads. Just, I don't know, people running around with AR-15s and MAGA hats, just taking out their political opponents. It seems like it might be a little far-fetched, but let's ask John Pudner, my next guest. He's president of the Take Back Action Fund. John, what do you think about this new Supreme Court ruling? This seems to be very important as far as Trump's immunity claims go, but is this going to open up the door to death squads, John?
No, thanks for an easy question to start. What the Supreme Court usually does is issues decisions on things that seemed obvious for a long time until someone threatened them. I think if you'd had a prosecutor like Jack Smith, who, with his history of trying to bankrupt, throw in prison, political opponents, 100 years ago, you would have had a Supreme Court decision like this 100 years ago. It's always been assumed that the president isn't going to be prosecuted for things like, let's say, putting the country into a war like World War II and people being killed from that. The idea that anyone questioned that you can carry on acts as president that wowould not get you, criminally indicted, like if you were just out there doing these things on your own to somebody, seems self-evident.
Well, it seems like they either don't know or they're pretending to not know that was the law of the land all the way up until Trump. And then it changed because this is the first time a guy got charged. And so the Supreme Court said, no, Trump's not going to be held to a different standard. He's going to be held to the same standard as every other president before him. That's not how it's being framed. Even when you take, maybe I don't take a histrionic, sensational journalist. Maybe I take President Biden. Here's what he said about it.
Today's Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity, that fundamentally changed for all practical purposes.
So did it really change the rules that we've been playing with all these years?
No, I think it just offered clarity. And, they did not give the Trump attorneys everything they wanted. And they wanted to have the entire indictment by Jack Smith dismissed, and they didn't do that. But what they said is you have to distinguish between official acts as president, and then if you have acts that you can show and argue were done not as president that you think are criminal, you can still pursue them. So they sent it back to the lower court, but I only see clarity here, no change.
All right. So where does the death squad thing come from?
I think it comes from the Biden debate a couple of days ago. You've got to change the subject. When you come off of 50 million people watching that debate performance, at that point, unless I did campaigns purely for a long time, when you have really bad news, you look for any other issue you can latch onto, and you can see they were just saying, well, now this election is all about the Supreme Court decision, anything but anything that Joe Biden talked about on stage the other night.
Right. Well, look, the frustrating part is these aren't dumb people. We like to make fun of Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow, but they both went to Harvard, so they may not be on top of every Supreme Court decision in the same way that we would observe, but these aren't dumb people.
Oh, no, very calculating. They know they've got to change the subject here. But I think this started. We look at the quick history. I mean, they picked Jack Smith to be the guy to go out and get Trump. Smith's history was he went after a Republican governor from Virginia, Bob McDonnell. Same thing. Made him spend $28 million defending himself on basically talking good about a business leader in the state who turned out to be a really bad guy. And so he gets a 2-year prison sentence for him after $28 million spent, goes to the Supreme Court, 9-0, they throw it out. Ruth Bader Ginsburg throws it out. Obviously, Jack Smith is willing to go way beyond the Constitution to throw a political opponent in prison. And then they pick him for this job. So I think it's pretty clear the intent here was to mess up the election one way or the other. And, along with other legal efforts to keep Trump off the ballot in states, et cetera, they've been trying to win an election by bankrupting the opponent, throwing him in prison, or keeping him off the ballot. It's just not a good precedent for the country.
Well, isn't that how you protect democracy, John?
Funny you asked that. For the first time in polling now, CBS just had a poll that 47% think democracy is safe if Trump wins, 48% if Biden wins. It's basically even. Now, the amazing part of that is they've based the last couple of years, the Democrats, on nothing but campaigning that Trump's a threat to democracy, and they're 50-50 on it. It would be like if we'd advertised on the border and immigration for 3 years straight, and people said, well, I think Biden and Trump are about just as good on the border. I mean, it's absurd that question's equal after all the advertising they've done. So you nailed it on the head. Which side's the threat to democracy? And right now, the Americans we're split 50-50 as a nation on who that is.
Well, the legal consequences are interesting to talk about, but you are known as the only person in history to defeat a majority leader in a primary. What do you think the political fallout is going to be? Not just from this ruling, but you couple that with what's going on with the debates and some of these other Supreme Court rulings. What's going to happen? Are they going to replace Biden? Can they replace Biden? What do you think?
I've never had so many people I consider to have inside insights so certain on how that question should be answered and have the opposite view. I've had people that absolutely there's no way he's gone, absolutely he's gone. No one's in the middle on this who would seem to have any insights. I'll let the Democrats sort that out in Chicago. I'll be in Milwaukee. We're doing the prayer breakfast in Milwaukee for the RNC convention. So this is their problem. Let them deal with it.
Yeah, if you are on Team Trump, I would be saying nice things about Biden because it looks like you want to run against this guy.
I have had some people propose starting a Republicans for Biden group just to make sure he stays on the ballot, and then that would be a fake group. But, that's all just gamesmanship.
Well, other than that, I mean, he is so sharp, John. He is the sharpest, most accomplished, greatest. Y'all better keep him on the ballot. You would regret replacing him, that's for sure.
I've said that to a few people. We're on the same page. And my only fear out of this whole thing is the expectation game's always big. He can't be this bad again in the second debate. He has to be. I mean, there's no humanly way he could be that bad again. So he will get a headline saying he had a better second debate. That's the only downside to this.
All right, let's talk about what you're doing on Outside the Show. How can they find you?
Sure. TakeBackAction.org. And that's just no spaces, underscores, just Take Back Action. And we have some good info on Jack Smith and some of these other related issues posted there, too.
All right, good stuff. Thank you very much for being on the James Show, John Putner.
Thanks a lot.
Find him, takebackaction.org. It's all lowercase, all one word, takebackaction.org. When we return, we're going to continue with the back and forth. On the other side of the argument, you're going to hear from Nancy Pelosi, who says, no. Biden's not the one with dementia. Trump has dementia. It's the political classic. I know you are, but what am I defense? That's next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. If you want to jump in the conversation, 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. And I would like to reiterate, if you're just joining the show, I'm really more interested in talking to my Democrat friends, Team Blue friends, or independent friends, or anti-Trump friends. I really want to know what you're thinking and what's on your mind. That was a great call earlier from Blanca in Dallas, who was saying what my personal Democrat friends say. But there are things that are being said on TV that I haven't got to talk to a human being who believes some of these things. Blanca was saying that, look, as bad as Biden was, and it was bad, Trump's worse. Trump's evil. Got it. No one's pro Biden that I've met, though. Now, there are people on TV that are pro-Biden. I play you Mika Brzezinski. I play you Chris Coons. But I haven't met those in my real life. I don't know them. And I would like to talk to you. And I'm not going to beat you up. And I'm not going to be mean or rude or make you look dumb in front of the James Show audience. I want to know what's on your mind and ask you a couple of deeper questions. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. And I was fair to Blanca earlier, wasn't I? She seemed to be happy with the exchange as well. But a lot of this breaks down to the I know you are, but what am I defense? And by that, when people have been pointing out for the last 4 years, that was one of the bounce backs that I constantly heard. And Biden's a little old. He's kind of slipping. Yeah, well, Trump's old too. Okay, I know, but he doesn't do the weird stuttering thing, or he doesn't wander off, and he doesn't have a bigger problem with two sets of stairs. I mean, look, you can see those two guys, and those two guys were next to each other for 90 minutes. And there's a reason why. There's a discussion being had about Biden's mental competence and not Trump's. No, I'm not saying Trump is the sharpest man on earth. And I'm not saying he hadn't lost a step since the Trump in the 80s and 90s. But it's not like this. It's clearly not like this. But they're trying it. You got to give them credit. Pelosi's out there doing I know you are, but what am I, the Pee Wee Herman defense.
What do you say to that? Is there any part of you that believes that President Biden should step aside?
I want you to know I came home to California, South and North, and people are for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They have some judgment about a person who stood on that stage and lied. If you're just talking about the debate, I'm respectful of some of the opinions that people have, but I also am respectful of the grassroots. My people are very much Biden, Kamala Harris, and this is an opportunity for Joe Biden to go out there and show he has the stamina and the rest. And by the way, while the press, and for some reason they don't, there are healthcare professionals who think that Trump has dementia, that his thoughts do not go together. Not only that he just lies, he doesn't even know the truth. So if we're just talking about mental acuity, let's be fair about it. I don't think Tom Friedman thinks that Donald Trump should be president of the United States. And, while he may be saying we're enablers, we see Joe Biden up close. We know how attuned he is to the issues, how informed he is. And I debate with him about legislation, and not debate, but discuss it with him. He's right there. So in any case, it was a bad night. Let's not sugarcoat that. It was a bad night. It was a great presidency. And that's what the American people have to choose. A night where somebody's going to just misrepresent the facts completely, and then you're on your guard. The other person has to negate that. Or, again, it was a bad night.
Yeah, it's just a bad night. No, it's been about a bad 5 years. I want to talk to that person. I want to talk to the person who believes what Nancy Pelosi just said, because I'm not even sure she believes what she just said. That's just politically speaking her job to say something like that. And she's, she's pro Biden and she's pro Team Blue, and all politicians, you have to take everything they say with a grain of salt. And of course, they have a built-in existing bias. But my Democrat friends don't say that. My Democrat friends say what Blanca said earlier, like, hey, we just don't like Trump, and this is our best chance of beating him. And I appreciate that honesty. But I want to talk to the person who says, no, Trump is demented. Biden is still sharp. You see him in conversation. He's sharp. He's with it. We can hardly keep up. He's so sharp. Really? Then why was this an issue in 2019? Why was this brought up in 2020? You think we were just making it up? Oh, he's always had a stutter. Show me in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even 2000s when anyone questioned Joe Biden's mental acuity. They even mentioned his stutter. Did you connect the Joe Biden with the stutter before recently? Did you in those first 30 years of his political career? Show me him stuttering. Show me him wandering off. Show me him having trouble with stairs. Show me him the forgetting stuff or doing that weird thing when he tried to say Mayorkas the other day and he just went. He never did that before. Now I always have to put this disclaimer in there because I mean it. And that the fact is, if you are a little slow, if you have lost a step, that doesn't disqualify you. That doesn't mean you wouldn't be a good president. That really doesn't even mean you shouldn't vote for that person. Because I believe the guy who has early onset dementia but is a free market capitalist would still be a better president than a guy who is a committed socialist but sharp as a tack. So I'm not saying this to dismiss the guy. The frustrating part is that all of us saw it. And when I say all of us, I mean even lefty friends that pay attention. Now, there's a lot of low information voters who I have no ill will to them. But and media members, you all saw all the stuttering and weird stuff that Joe Biden has done. You noticed the change in his facial expressions, how his mouth hangs open, how he bumps into stuff, how he gets lost. And you lied. You lied for the last at least 5 years about this guy's mental acuity. And now you're just pretending for the first time on Thursday to be like, oh, my goodness, I had no idea it was this bad. No, you just couldn't hide the lie anymore. And it's also gotten to the point to where this lie isn't working out. And you don't even want to replace him because of what you saw on Thursday. You want to replace him because other people saw what happened on Thursday, and that makes him less likely to win. Your commitment here isn't to the truth. It isn't even to the Biden's mental acuity or what's best for the country. Your commitment is to Team Blue and Team Blue only. And we're not going to forget how many people told us, oh, this guy's sharp as a tack, and Trump's the one with dementia, not Biden. No one's buying that. But we will talk to someone who works at the Brain Performance Center, Lee Richardson, next on the James Show, and ask her, look, you help people, rehab from brain injuries and get the most out of their brain, and people going through these issues. What does she think about Biden's performance on Thursday? That's next on the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.